Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Quotes and Quips. Today, words of wisdom from the Mahatma Gandhi. Quotes and Quips is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. That's where you can find links to my author's page. At Amazon, that's where you can buy my books in all the formats, paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. There's also a link to my Spotify artist page. That's where you can download my music, including last year's 4-album set quadrilogy and the new album for 2025, I'm Possible, which is available from Spotify or any of your favorite download or streaming sites. But at the website, there are free things, links, music, things you can only get there. So check it out, won't you? Okay, today we look at another quote from the Mahatma Gandhi. He was a great man of peace, the father of a modern free India, liberated India from British colonial rule. Like many great men of peace, he was assassinated, died violently. But he tells us this: be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Well, we see this sentiment expressed a lot in the kind of inspirational quotes I look at here on Quotes and Quips. But it also resonates with a lot of the same themes. It's not just about wanting good in the world, or wishing for good in the world, or praying for good in the world, or offering your blessings or condolences in the hopes of a better world. That's folly. That's going to get you nowhere. As it said in the Bible, faith without works is dead. It's not enough just to think or hope or pray. David Bowie, so commonly referenced in the same paragraph as the Bible, said on his album Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, love is not loving. Love is not loving. So that's basically the same expression, the same sentiment. It's not enough just to feel something, to feel the want or the hope, to have a desire for a better world. It's fine to have that. That's the love part of the quote. That's the good you wish to see in the world part of Gandhi's quote. It's not enough. You have to be it. You have to do it. You have to be the one to initiate the goodness. You have to be the good that you wish to see in the world. Let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth. A song goes, and let it begin with me. When we look at David Bowie, he says, love is not loving. So you can think loving love thoughts and feel love, but if you're not loving, which is the act of demonstrating love, showing it, letting it resonate in your behavior and in your rhetoric, then there is no love. Love without loving is just as dead as faith without acts. And that is the exact parallel of not being the good you wish to see in the world. If you just wish to see it, but you're not willing to be it, then it will never happen, and you don't deserve it. You know, there are so many ways to say this one thing. God helps those who help themselves. You can be as faithful as you want, you still have to act. and you have to act properly. You know, to say faith without acts is dead is fine. Well, but if your actions are reflective of an ideology that conflicts with your faith, then your actions must be in coordination with your faith. And if you're a Christian, for example, and you set out to do violence, then there's a contradiction there between your faith and your actions. It's not just any old faith and any old actions, nor is it be anything you want and hope that good in the world will result. You have to be the very thing you want to see. In show business, when you're a writer, you learn that basically the people on the screen are going to reflect the people in the audience. So if you've got a movie about white women, you're going to see a lot of white women in the audience. Excuse me. If you've got a movie about, kids on wild adventures, you're going to have an audience full of kids. Because people like to look at people who reflect themselves. Basically, people only care about one person in the world more than others. Basically, and that's themselves. And if you want to appeal to them on a storytelling level, you have to tell them stories about their lives, not your own. Therefore, people are attracted to stories which appeal to them and their worldview and themselves. There's a thing called, there's a bias sort of that gets generated by this. It's escaping me at the moment, but the thing is that people do want to see a world which reflects themselves, their ideologies, their perspective. But you're not a person in life. You're not a person sitting in a movie theater watching a movie, even though you will probably choose to see a movie about a person like yourself. You probably will, psychologically, because you don't want to have to be the person that you're seeing. You can be that person just by sitting down, and suddenly you're Indiana Jones. Now, you're not going to be able to go out and be Indiana Jones. What we're talking about is the world, not the fictive universe of film. So if you want to be a hero like Indiana Jones and do good like Indiana Jones does by retrieving artifacts and returning them to museums, then go out there and do some volunteer work to help homeless people who are sort of lost artifacts find their way back to the museums where they belong. Which I'm not sure where that is, but I think you get what I'm saying. It's not just enough to walk down the street and say, oh, this world, it's so crummy. It should be a better place. Do something then. Be a cause, be a catalyst for good. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Be the good you wish to see in the world. And another thing about this quote that's so impactful is that the thing is, what I think Gandhi is really saying, and a lot of people, when they express this sentiment, are getting at, is that you cannot control the outside world. You can't. You can't make this world a better place. You can't. You can't make people better people. You cannot. You cannot convince a sociopath not to be a sociopath. You can't even cure them. All you can do is strengthen their sociopathy through the talking cure. That's a moribund condition. It's uncurable. You cannot convince someone who's politically dedicated to a certain thing, whatever it is. You're not going to reason them out of it because they're emotionally involved. They're emotionally attached. So forget reason if you're talking about someone who's totally dedicated to one political leader over another. That person is all in. No reason is going to touch it because emotion prevails in that instance. We've looked at that here on the show. There is always emotion and reason going on in the human psyche, but always one predominates over the other, always. There's never an equal. Always someone is more rational or they're more emotional at one given time. It's not true to say that any person is always one or the other. People shift. Sometimes I'm more emotional, sometimes I'm more reasonable. Everybody is like that. So you're not going to be able to use reason to counter emotion. You cannot convince anybody of anything almost. You can't change their mind, you can't change their ways. You might be able to influence them through your example. You can lead by example and help to encourage others to follow your example. But you're not just going to talk them into changing their mind. You cannot change the world that way. There's only one way you can change the world, and that's by being a better person. That's by being the good that you wish to see in the world. Because there's no other way. It is hopeless to think you could affect any change by being rational, by being emotional, because if you're emotional, then people who are rational will not be swayed. And if you are rational, then people who are emotional will not be swayed. You can't, and you cannot hardly do it by artistic means either. I used to think you could change the world with a song. Well, I used to think that. You can't. A painting, no matter how great, a movie, no matter how great, a play, no matter how profound, a novel, no matter how brilliant, will never, ever change the world. A speech or two might turn the tide, but that's something else. But by artistry, you will not change the world. Sorry, you won't do it. The people who agree will like it, the people who disagree will not. Nothing's going to change. The only way to change the world is to change yourself. And that's the only thing you can change. It's the only thing you have any possible hope of affecting any change in at all is yourself. Change yourself. Then people will see you and your example, and then they will change themselves. Voluntarily. Not because you're telling them to, but because you're showing them how. I talked about a quote on this show by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it was, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." And so anybody you're trying to influence or affect in that way is going to necessarily say, "Show me what you do, because I cannot hear what you say." Effect and affect, by the way. So, this is true. You don't bother talking. Don't bother preaching or praying or caring or sending your best blessings or your condolences. Be the good you wish to see in the world. It's the only way. It's not just good advice. I promise you, there's no person in the world you have any chance of really changing until you change yourself first. Be the good you wish to see in the world. That, I believe, is what Gandhi meant. So, you can hear my quips and other quotes throughout this year, 2025. I'll be here every other Monday on this very YouTube channel, Mondays at noon. When it's not this show, it'll be alternating with my other new show, Fletcher Rhoden's Pet Peeves. Why should you be interested in my pet peeves? Well, maybe they're your pet peeves, and misery loves company. And maybe you'll learn to give up your pet peeves once you hear me express them. Maybe they're kind of silly. Or maybe you'll just pick up a new pet peeve of your own. They're always fun, and they're free. So, tune in. I want to encourage you to watch the reruns of Quotes and Quips from this year and from last year, 2024. They're still posted. There's also Tracking the Lone Wolf, which is my show from 2023 on its own YouTube channel, Tracking the Lone Wolf. It's there, posted, ready for you to watch. Enjoy, check out my books and music, tune in again, and until then, Bye, Mary.